This is Whisper from History, where forgotten voices rise again. 1346. The city of Kaffa, in Crimea, was surrounded by the Mongol army. Inside, people locked themselves away, gripped by fear of a deadly sickness. But what was this disease? Let's uncover the truth with Whisper from History. The year is 1346, and the walls of Kaffa, a trading colony perched on the shores of Crimea, shiver in the winter wind. Inside, merchants and families huddle in their homes, fearing the plague's dark shadow. Just beyond those walls, the Golden Horde, weakened by disease, contemplates a final act of vengeance. Their bodies ravaged by swelling buboes and fever become instruments of terror. They are flung, dead or dying, over the fortifications, a grotesque gift of infection. This act of biological warfare, recorded by the Italian notary Gabriel de Mussis, may be as chilling in its intent as in its reality. Inside Kaffa, the stench of death and desperation fills the air. Panic spreads faster than any microbe. Genoese survivors, haunted by visions of corpses raining down, flee on ships bound for ports across the Mediterranean. They carry the unseen killer with them. Sicily, Genoa, Venice. Plague leaps across waves, carried by rodent-borne fleas and human fear. The disease arrives in Europe in 1347. Within weeks, markets fall silent, churches overflow, families vanish. Boccaccio, watching Florence crumble, describes swollen buboes, fever that drains life in days, screams that echo through empty streets. Coroners tally bodies, cemeteries vanish into the mud of mass graves. Up to half of Europe's population is gone. It is a calamity beyond imagining. But was the Black Death truly a weapon? And what if, rather than a weapon, it was the unrelenting force of nature, weaponizing itself? Genetic studies confirm that Yersinia pestis, the bubonic plague bacterium, was the killer extracted from medieval skeletons across Europe, its DNA stitching the centuries together, confirming the disease's natural origins, originating in Central Asia, spreading via trade routes and rodents. Its path was inevitable, connected to human movement and ecological interaction. The notion that the plague was a weapon stems from extraordinary stories like Kaffa, which stir the mind. But modern scholars cast doubt on the mechanics. Could trebuchets truly hurl infected corpses into the city? Terrain, siege, physics, and geography raise questions. Some argue the tale fits medieval tropes more than historical fact, perhaps magnified over time by retelling and longing for dramatic origin stories. So the Black Death was not a crafted weapon, but a naturally emergent catastrophe. Yet humans, ever desperate for control, treated it as one. Rumors of poisoned wells, malevolent outsiders, conspiracies, pogroms against Jews spread as rapidly as disease itself. Frenzy, blame, moral collapse followed in the plague's wake. And still, out of horror came transformation. Survivors found labor in demand. Wages rose, land became available, diets improved, living standards, painfully earned through loss, began to climb. In post-plague London, skeletal studies showed that people lived longer, healthier lives. The brutal toll of mortality paradoxically bestowed an era of relative abundance. Beyond Europe, the history of plague as a weapon did not end. In modern times, the Japanese Unit 731 weaponized plague fleas and bombs, dropping them over Chinese cities. The Soviet Union developed aerosolized drug-resistant strains. History repeated itself, not in medieval ignorance, but in mechanized horror. So what emerges is this. The Black Death was not a weapon forged in a laboratory of malice. It was a vast, natural calamity that humans experienced as though it were. In that force of nature, people seek an enemy, weapon, poisoner, scapegoat, ghost. It was only later, centuries on, that science revealed its biological roots, its rodent and flea vectors, its ancient genome. Only then did we dismantle the myth of Yet emotionally, the idea persists. A siege of death, an act of warfare, bodies hurled like poisoned darts. That image endures, not because it is wholly true, but because it gives shape to suffering. Because it helps us tell a story we can bear, that we were attacked, that there was an enemy to fight. It is a human impulse to seek blame in face of chaos. And now, centuries later, as we confront new pandemics, we recall these histories. We grapple with fear, conspiracy, blame. We build defenses, genetic surveillance, biosecurity, not just against disease, but against the idea that history will repeat as weapon. The specter of bioweapons emphasizes how our worst fears of annihilation, intentional or not, persist under the surface. The Black Death was not a weapon, but it was wielded in memory, in myth, in human psyche. It was a force that deformed societies, killed millions, and changed the course of history. It remains a dark mirror of how disease can be treated as aggression, how suffering demands stories, and how humans survive not just through medicine, but through narrative, meaning, and cautious remembrance. Today, we believe that science, technology, and knowledge can keep us safe. But the Black Death reminds us that sometimes humanity becomes a victim of its own creations, and even the cause of its own destruction. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you're the first to see every new video we release. This was Black Death as Weapon, part of our Dark History collection. But the shadows don't end here. In this same playlist, you'll find other untold stories equally chilling, equally unforgettable. Don't miss the dancing plague where an entire town danced itself to death, or the dead pope on trial, a courtroom spectacle unlike anything the world has seen, and the king who locked his daughter, a tale of power, fear, and cruelty. Each episode stands alone, yet together they reveal just how dark history can be. So keep watching the Dark History playlist and subscribe to Whisper from History, where every whisper uncovers a shadow the past tried to hide.